Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor that the former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, is here in Athens to participate in the first American Mediterranean Investment Forum, which is organized by the Joseph Sassoon Group. Mr. Pompeo, thank you for this interview.
It's wonderful to be with you again.
Thank you. Allow me to start our conversation by asking you the developments in Eastern Mediterranean. In 2019, you were present when the EastMed project was signed. Since then, Greece, Cyprus and Israel have developed their relationship in defense and diplomacy. At the same time, Turkey and President Erdogan is still in power. So what is the level of interest in the United States and in the area and its security commitments?
So I think the Eastern Med remains just as important today as it was in 2019. I'm really proud of the folks who came together to do that, leaders in Israel and Cyprus and Greece. It was good work. I think it has expanded in what is now 4 years or so, but there's still a lot more work to do. There's a lot more capital investment opportunity. There's more work on the security side that needs to be done as well. And so while I think there has been real progress, I think there still remains a lot that needs to be accomplished to achieve the vision that we laid out back in 2019 in the Trump administration, alongside our colleagues and partners here in the region.
Right. The fact that President Erdogan is still in power, do you think it's a matter that the three countries, Greece, Cyprus and Israel, should consider more?
Oh, always, but that's probably true no matter who the president of Turkey is. They should consider doing more. There's rich natural resources, great human capital, abundant capabilities in terms of transportation, shipment, infrastructure work that can be done between the Eastern Med countries. They ought to do that regardless of who's in power anywhere in the world. This is good for the people of the region and ought to be continued.
Good. The president of Cyprus a few days ago in Washington mentioned your contribution and your role for the lift of the 3-decade-old arms embargo to Cyprus. And he said that after President Erdogan called the international community to recognize the Turkish occupied northern part of Cyprus as an independent state.
So I remember it very well. At that time, he was the foreign minister, if I have the timing right.
That's right.
He got promoted. I'm now unemployed, so good for him. I had a chance to speak with him just a couple days ago when he was in New York to rekindle and continue to build our friendship out. Look, Cyprus is doing fantastic work. The decision we made to lift the long-standing arms embargo was not only right for the people of Cyprus, it was right for the people of the United States of America. They are a partner, an ally, a good friend, and we need to strengthen our defense cooperation with them in a way that will ensure that they will have the sovereignty and autonomy that they so richly deserve. It's pretty straightforward.
And still, your position regarding the Cyprus solution is still remaining the same?
Yeah, look, in the end, they're going to have to figure this out. There's no magic solution that's likely to be imposed from abroad. I hope that the Turkish leadership and the leader of Cyprus can find a way to accommodate the interests that they each have, right? When we were there, they were at sea, almost at conflict, and we were trying to take down the kinetic risk, the risk that there would be an escalation, an actual war between them. That was a first priority. The second priority is figuring out how to resolve this long-standing dispute, and I hope one day they'll find a path that achieves that.
On Ukraine, do you see an end of the war soon? And if so, how do you see this war ending?
So this is Vladimir Putin's war. He started it. He's still killing Ukrainians. He could end it today. That has to be our expectation, needs to be the expectation not only for the Ukrainians, but for Europeans and for Americans as well. The United States and NATO have patted themselves on the back for the good work that they have done to unite together to support Ukraine, and I'm happy about that. I credit that too. But we should remember they failed in their first task. Their first task was to deter this war, as we had done for 4 years while I was in office. And so that failure of deterrence has just resulted in an absolute tragedy for Ukraine and for Europe. As for how it ends when Vladimir Putin concludes that the cost of continuing his aggression exceeds the benefit. It's pretty straightforward. It's old school. Everyone knows this is how wars end. And the West and Ukraine together need to work to make sure that the costs are imposed on him sufficient for him to make that decision. Whether that happens while we're sitting here in this interview or 5 years from now, I can't say. But the failure, frankly, of Europe and of the United States to provide the resources that the Ukrainians needed at the very front end of this, back in 2022, even in the fall of 21, when we knew Putin was going to invade, Our failure to do that has now emboldened Putin, emboldened Xi Jinping, emboldened the Iranians to send drones to Ukraine. All of these things build out adversarial capabilities in a way that threaten those of us who believe in basic human dignity. We need to work to assist the Ukrainians in ending this war on terms that matter to the American people and to people all across the world. I'm convinced we can do it.
During your tenure as the director of CIA and later as Secretary of State, you took a strong stand against Russia, but at the same time, former President Trump has been accused that he was too friendly with Vladimir Putin. So if former President Trump wins against the election, what his foreign policy will be towards this issue?
Well, it'll be America first, which is what we did for 4 years. Look, the Russia hoax narrative that somehow Donald Trump was a Russian asset has been proven false. We know this was a Hillary Clinton political hit job, right? Run by the Democratic Party attempting to undermine the duly elected President Donald Trump.
Right.
As for our policies, I think they speak for themselves. The first ones to provide defensive weapons systems to the Ukrainians was not President Obama, it was not President Biden, or Vice President Biden for that matter. It was President Trump and our team. We did that because we wanted to make sure then President Putin understood that we were serious about defending the things that mattered to America. I'm confident that if President Trump is to be reelected, brought back into office, that will continue. It's not about hostility towards the Russian people. Right. It's not about hating Russia. It's about protecting sovereignty of free nations, including our own.
Right. So you think that former President Trump will win again the elections because he's ahead of polls?
You know, I'll be honest with you. I don't pay much attention to polls in the year before an election. People are reacting to so many different things. The campaign has not truly begun.
Since we're referring to U.S. politics, Senator Menendez has been accused of using his seat at the Senate as chair of Foreign Relations Committee to benefit some officials of the government of Egypt. He stepped down, but this has a huge impact on the Democrat Party.
These are just charges. They've not been proven yet. But man, it looks nasty. It looks like one of the worst violations of the basic norms for American leaders, especially someone who's in charge in the Senate of foreign relations. We'll see what the courts prove. Senator Menendez claims none of this is true, but this is his second time having been charged with bribery. And from where I stand and what I hear from world leaders is Senator Menendez ought to go leave the United States Senate. He ought to move on to protecting and defending the arguments that he has presented about why it didn't happen, and no longer burden the United States with having someone who's been accused with facts that look pretty apparent to me, at least as I read the indictment, of things that look like America has leaders that can be bribed.
Let's move on to Iran. Regarding Iran, what's the U.S. strategy towards Iran? How do you see this strategy change under the Republican if you get back in the White House?
So this was probably among the biggest changes we made from President Obama's policy when we came into office. President Obama had coddled, had encouraged the Iranians, had allowed them to make enormous headway towards building out their nuclear weapons program. We crushed it. We completely flipped the way we thought about the Middle East. We knew we had a friend and partner in Israel. We knew we had friends in the Eastern Med. We knew that we could build friendships and relationships with the Gulf Arab states to take on the world's largest state sponsor of terror, which in fact is Iran. Biden administration came back and basically undid what we did. And have now given billions of dollars to the Iranians. I promise you, you are less safe sitting here in Greece today as a result of that money in the Iranian hands. You saw just the past few weeks, Iranians rolled up here in Greece, engaged in nefarious activities. This is a global terror campaign, and now the Biden administration has given them the money with which to do it. The Abraham Accords mattered an awful lot. And you can't get an expansion of the Abraham Accords when the United States is funding Iran. The Gulf states will fear it too much. They'll have to hedge for their own protection. And so my hope is that whoever the next president is, I hope they'll come to see that we have great friends in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, in the United Arab Emirates, in Kuwait and Oman, all across the Gulf Arab region. They want to be economic security partners with the United States. And that so long as we're underwriting Iran and the United States is giving them money, you'll see Iran do bad things, including threaten to wipe Israel off the face of the earth, seek to kill American officials, build drones that are now killing Ukrainian innocent civilians being provided to the Russian military forces, not to mention all that they do to their own people, especially the women of their own country.
My last question, I have read your book, Never Give an Inch, and it's a fantastic book actually. You give very much insight and experiences, but it appears to be an introduction for yourself to the next level of your political journey. You mentioned before that you're unemployed. Of course, no one believes that. So I'm interested to know if you're interested in re-entering politics once again.
That's a fine question. Look, I wrote Never Give an Inch, and everybody said I was doing it to run for president. It turns out that's not true. Okay. I wrote it because, and I can prove it, I'm not running for president.
Now.
But I wrote it because I wanted that history to be told from my perspective, the things that I saw. That was the purpose of the book. You know, as for my future, I'm back doing what I did before I ran for Congress. I'm back in the business world, trying to create opportunities, investment in the United States and around the world. It's a lot of fun. I'm still connected to the policy and political world, trying to make sure that America doesn't lose its moorings to its founding traditions. But only God knows what will come next in my life, whether I'll re-enter politics or stay in the current place that I'm in. We'll see what the next months and years bring for the Pompeos.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank
Pompeo,
you.
for
It
the
was a
interview.
wonderful interview. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you.